Yo, everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of Techish. I'm one half of the hosting dynamic duo, Abadesi of Hustle Crew.
And I'm the other half, Michael Bahane of Pocket Jobs. Let's go.
If you're new to the podcast, Techish is a weekly show that covers all the best stories at the intersection of tech and pop culture.
Yep.
So thanks for joining.
Let's have fun. Let's go.
So here is a new version of try to get people into the office story.
Okay.
The head of PwC, one of the largest professional services firms in the UK, has urged Gen Z workers that if they are serious about having a career in the age of AI, then they need to be in the office, building relationships and learning from people.
What do we say about that?
Discuss.
If you're talking about coming into the office 5 days a week, 9 to 5, I do not agree with that. If you're talking about coming in sometimes, I do agree with that, especially if you're young and you don't know anybody in your career. If you just go from university, then all of a sudden you just lit in your room. I do think you are at a disservice. And I will say that the biggest learnings I had in my career when I started off as an engineer, my first engineering job was sat right next to my CTO, and I watched him code, and I learned to code that way. And to be honest, this is how bad of an employee I am. I learned what I needed to do after 8 months, and I went and started my own company. So basically, but what, I'm not saying that means that we have to be in all the time. But what I'm saying is, I'm not going to sit here and act like there's no value for a junior employee to be in the office sometimes.
But I'm going to sit in the seat of a junior employee. Okay, I'm going to empathize with a junior employee. It's expensive to commute.
100%.
It's expensive to buy lunch. I don't have time to make food. I'm anxious AF. Like I got mental health problems, bruh. Okay, I'm lonely. I go into the office. I don't know anyone else there. It's not fun. At least when I'm home, I'm more productive. I can manage my mental health. And if I really need to learn stuff, I can just go on TikTok or YouTube.
No, okay, now you're capping. Now you're just doing it on purpose. But what I will say is that there's some truth to some of that. Definitely, it's more expensive. It's more time consuming. It is more exhausting. Which is why I will never wholesale say, listen, it should be full time going into the office. But come on, some of that stuff we just gotta push through and network, suck it up and network.
So would you say that to your younger self, if you graduated today out of your master's, out of UCL computer science, and you're in a startup and it's optional, you can go to the office if you want, but you don't have to. What's a young Mike gonna do?
So let me give an analogy. So a friend of mine once met a young lady at a bar, and she was in town for like 3 weeks, while she was in the UK. She was on holiday. She said, listen, I've only got one time for a date, but I'm going to dinner with my mum. Do you want to join me? Wow. My friend calls me and said, bro, what should I do? Should I go? I said, go. Yeah. He said, but would you do that? I said, no, don't listen to what I would do. Listen to what I'm telling you is the right thing to do. So if you came to me as a junior employee, I'm obviously going to want to chill at home. Maybe even young Mike would be like, oh, man, let me just chill at home. There's Netflix here. I'm in my pajamas. I'm comfortable. But do I think that has the maximum ROI for my career? No. Probably not. So listen to your big bro Mike and say, listen, just show your face a couple times.
I think that's
But true. I'm not for those companies that are like be in all the time. I think that's equally as, insane. It's equally illogical to be like, you need to be in at all times. You absolutely don't. But some FaceTime is important because we are still old school people. People haven't changed their DNA where we can just, completely vibe with somebody on a screen. And whenever I brought my company together, like we bond much quicker that way than we can do on any Zoom call.
I'll also say this, I'll be the first person to say that, a lot of office environments are just frankly hostile to, young people of color.
100%.
I'll be the first person to
1,000%.
That's literally why I started my company, Hustle Crew, and that's how we make money, helping these environments be more inclusive. But at the same time, one of the things that I only appreciate as I get older, and I'm saying this now as someone that joined the tech industry in 2011. I don't even want to admit that because I know I look young and you can still
So you joined the industry at 5 years old?
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
But what you realize as you get older is you work for a long time. And people that you thought you would never see again end up being the CEO of this company
100%.
or the head of a department of that company. People who you didn't even like or didn't even talk to will suddenly be commenting on your LinkedIn post saying hey, can I find out more about your product or service? I had lunch the other day with the man that gave me my first job in tech, my old boss at Groupon, who now runs a startup hub for a huge UK based corporate. And I was just it's so nice to sit opposite a table with someone and actually just shoot the breeze as homies, as friends, 10 years on from when we had a relationship as manager and employee or, manager direct report. So I'm very aware of the fact that if I wasn't in a period of time where it was the expectation to come into the office, these bonds would not be there and these relationships would not be there. So, if you are interested in working for a really long time, rising up the career ladder, eventually maybe running your own company or running your own department, put in that face time.
Yeah. But we're saying, like, we're not saying we're not anti-remote work, we're pro-remote work, but like put in some FaceTime. Because to me, I'll be honest with you, you know, we hated that word quiet firing. It wasn't quiet quitting. That's it. I believe that a lot of this come to the office stuff is a way to lay people off. Because now a lot of companies are like, if you are not tapping in 3 times a week, you're gone basically, or you're in trouble. Yeah, so I think this is a way where they're like, listen,
pass the buck.
Let's lay people off with a reason. And they're probably thinking to themselves, that cohort are the ones who are less engaged with the company or less incentivized or care about the company least. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that's fair. But because you might have, you know, single mothers or parents or people who have elderly parents they're looking after and they need to be close to them. They can't come into the office easily. But companies are just being real ruthless right now and they're taking advantage of the downturn and saying, listen, we're getting rid of all you remote workers, blah, blah, blah.
Actually, so let's segue into something. Career success and soft life. Okay, so I come from like a generation that graduated in the late 2000s, right? Credit crunch, recession. Like we were grateful to get a job. And I'm talking to someone with a very privileged education. I studied economics at the London School of Economics.
Yeah, Illuminati for real.
So, you know, people from my university were like guaranteed jobs at McKinsey, Golden.
You lot were the best.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, don't even interview, like, boom. Oh, LSE, yeah, come on in. And then everything changed. And suddenly we were just out there fighting with like Harvard grads and Oxford grads and Cambridge grads for like the few jobs that were there. And it meant that when a job landed in my lap, I was just like, I'll come in early. Yeah. I'll stay late. Because in my mind, I was like...
Yes, sir. I got your tea. I got your coffee. Here's an apple, sir.
That was just called hard work back then. That was just called hard work. But, you know, it's a bit like that show Industry, where they're reminded, look around, because a lot of you aren't going to be here at the end of this internship, at the end of this program. But that was sort of the mindset that I entered into. I entered the workplace with a scarcity mindset, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And what I find really interesting is that because of a period of abundance, a lot of people entering the workforce in the last few years have come in with quite an abundant mindset. Like, do you know what? I can do, you know, the contractual hours, which quite frankly, a lot of business leaders and old school people see as the bare minimum. What you see as your contracted hours, or but like that's the generation that I come from. Because for me, it was like, especially in the startup world, unless you're doing that 9 to 9, which is literally what we would do at Groupon a year before the IPO, finish, you know, start at 9, finish at 9.
Yeah.
You are not serious. And I just find it really interesting because I am not saying that I believe that overwork is correct, but I am saying that it's going to be really hard to make quick progress financially and career-wise without overworking.
Interesting.
Because if you are just doing what you are contractually obligated to do, then the person who's doing more will always be seen as a more valuable asset.
Did you see that TikTok that went viral? It was a podcast. It was a guy and a woman actually on a podcast, and they were reading a letter or an email that somebody sent in, where basically it was a Gen Z. No, it was a millennial who was managing a Gen Z employee, and they read a scenario where they said, "I told my Gen Z employee we have a morning meeting at 8 a.m. And they told me, I can't make it because like I've got like my workout. Sorry." Yeah. And then the two hosts who are reading,
sorry,
the two hosts who are reading the email were like, "Oh, I'm furious, I'm fuming, I'm shaking, blah 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 blah," and they got absolutely destroyed on TikTok for basically like defending the millennial manager for being annoyed at that Gen Z employee for coming.
Come for me.
But listen, I think.
Because, like, let's face it.
No, but come on. I would never ask anybody to come in. Actually, would I? I don't think I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. The thing. I don't want to lie. I don't want people to look at my LinkedIn profile and go, "Wow, Abadesi worked at all these companies. Abadesi got offered all these jobs.
Yeah, it was easy.
Abadesi built a 7-figure company." Oh, guys, you know how I did it? I did my 2-hour workout from 8 to 10. Then I like did 2 or 3 calls. Then I went for a hike. Then I had a matcha latte. No, I earned the privilege of a soft life because I had no life for my 20s.
Interesting.
And I think it's like, if there's anyone out there telling you, let me show you how to live a soft life and become a millionaire, they're lying.
That is true. Don't get it twisted. But I don't believe working from 9 till 6 is soft life. Because to me, if you are actually working hard during that time period and very productive, that is more than enough time to get shit done, from my opinion. The times where I've worked longer than that are when I was like, for example, at my first startup job, working next to the CTO, I'm learning to code. Yeah. I was passionate. I was like, because I knew that every bit of information I got was making me better and stronger and more powerful as an engineer that I was going to use for my career. The other times I worked longer hours when I'm building my own company. Yeah. Now, am I going to tell though somebody who's basically a junior marketing person at a certain company that you need to be working from 9 till 9 or 8 till 9. I don't think that's necessary. Just be productive with the time that you've got, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. But you're not a venture-backed company.
I'm not a venture-backed company, so but that's the point I'm making. But not everyone, not even at my company. I'm saying not everyone is in a company where it's not like Groupon. Because Groupon, for example, you were incentivized, you had equity, and they were telling you, we're growing. And if we IPO, everyone's getting rich. Yeah. Not everyone's in a company like that. A lot of people are in a middle tier company that's not growing.
Absolutely.
One, they have no profit incentive. Yeah. They have no ownership. Yeah. Basically, they just got a normal regular 9 to 5, and they're being told to work like they're an owner. Come on, you can't expect people to do that.
100%, and I wouldn't. But this is what I'm saying. Don't join a company that expects you to have an owner mindset and say you want the soft life.
I agree. Yeah. Figure it out, basically.
And also, like, if you want to be a really successful entrepreneur, you have to be realistic about what you can achieve if you're only going to work 9 to 6. Tell me that you only work 9 to 6 in the first year.
No, that's not the case. Yeah, it's not true. Of course I work longer. I work longer, harder, weekends, everything.
This is what I'm saying. And I was like, I just feel like there's like this weird disconnect or this weird distortion where people are just like, hey, everyone, oh my God, like do this, do that, whatever. And then you're going to get paid. No, like, the real grind is where you get paid, and it is painful and it is horrible and it's a sacrifice. Basically, like, it's a sacrifice.
Okay, here's the clarification I want to make. What you're saying is true to a certain extent. I just feel like if you are striving for excellence, you want to be one of the top 1% earners in the world, of course you're gonna have to put in top 1% effort. 100%. If you want to be, I want to be 200 grand a year, 150, whatever. If you want to be an entrepreneur, to me, it's like me being an entrepreneur. To me, is like, you know, somebody else being a musician. I don't even count the hours. I enjoy it. That's how sick it is. I'm like, yeah, I enjoy it. I'm building my business.
You're a workaholic.
Yeah, I'm a no. I'm actually not a workaholic, because when I was at university, I was very lazy. If I didn't understand what I was doing,
for yourself.
That's the point I'm making. So I'm not a workaholic. I just enjoy, my art form is making companies. I enjoy that.
Okay.
Yeah,
your art form's making money.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. That moolah on Picasso, baby, with the dollars. No.
But yeah,
building a company is a passion thing for me, so I'm willing to do it. But can I say to somebody who's probably earning, you know, US equivalent 60,000, UK equivalent 35,000, there's no real career growth, am I going to tell them that you need to grind? And this is not, let's say this is a career that you're not particularly passionate about.
Yeah. That's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. Like, and you're not incentivized with any equity. I don't know. Let's segue. We'll leave it to the audience. Who's right, me or Abadesi? To be fair, me. Of course. I think you're going to get cooked for that, I'll be honest with you. But So let's talk about relationships. So I saw something. You sent it to me, actually. Let me see if I can get the tweet, because it was actually hilarious. So here's the tweet. I went on a date last night, and the guy texted me when I got home. Here's the text. Hey, I had a lot of fun meeting you tonight. You're really hot and funny. I know it's really insecure of me to say this, but I just don't know if I can date a girl who is stronger than me. I wish you all the luck with your competition! ! And I'm guessing by competition, she's in some sort of bodybuilding or, you know, weightlifting or powerlifting type competition. And that was a dude texting a woman saying that he can't date a woman who's stronger than him. What is your initial thoughts to this chap?
I mean, I feel quite conflicted, because on the one hand, I'm like, wow, I admire his honesty. At least he's putting it out there.
He was like, I ain't shit, I'm gone.
He didn't ghost her. He called out his own insecurity. But at the same time, I'm like, really? Like, are you less of a man because a woman is stronger than you? Like, you need to go and unpack that. I mean, really? Is that a thing?
The male ego is fragile. Let me tell you that one right now.
Wow, for real.
But you know what? There's levels to this, innit? Because the ultimate good guy in this situation is the person who's secure enough to be in the relationship with a person who's stronger than them.
Yeah.
Then I think there's this guy. Second
tier.
Bottom tier is the person who pretends they're okay with it. Then they get into the relationship with you and they start chipping away.
Yeah.
They start trying to bring you down. Oh, but come on, like, do you really need to do this? Do you really need to, why don't you do something quote unquote more feminine? Or, you know, that's the worst person who's coming in to actually dim your light, pretending they're okay with it and trying to shut you down. This person, listen, they admitted their vulnerabilities and their flaws in their psyche, and they're like, listen, I can't do this.
Yeah.
This is like a male ick. I'll be honest with you. You know how you hear the ick? This is like, listen, I'll be honest with you, that I had the thought of you being stronger than me. Like, it's not a turn on.
I mean, really? I have so many questions. Like, either there is like some kind of like, you know, sex element to this, that like you need to be stronger than the person, like to enjoy things that are physical. It reminded me of a time when I was at university and one of my friends started dating this guy and he was just like, you can't go on top. And she was like, why? I like to go on top. And he's like, it makes me feel like less of a man.
Okay, yeah, he's crazy.
And
he's
was
bugging.
like, what?
Bugging.
So I don't know, it kind of, when I read that tweet, it kind of reminded me of that. And I was just like, yo, like, we need to like unpack these like outdated gender stereotypes and gender roles.
Yeah,
Like,
I think certain men think protecting and providing are the only two things that they can stake out as like their thing. Go on, shoot, go on.
I just need to say, this is like the perfect time to remind everyone that we all benefit from feminism, okay? It's not just women that benefit from feminism. Men are also trapped in these limiting mindsets and limiting roles. And the fight for equality, like the fight for all genders to be respected and have like equal access to opportunities and like equal access to individuality and whatever they want, it's a fight for all of us. It's not just women. And you're right, men are trapped into thinking I must be a provider, but men are trapped into this idea of being a provider because of patriarchy, because of toxic masculinity. Every man who is not a feminist is literally participating in their own oppression as well.
100%. But this is the so I said protector and provider. So in this situation, he probably feels like I can't be the protector in a relationship if I know that you're actually the person with the better chance of beating up the burglars, basically.
Let's face it.
Because like I say, you hear a noise at night and you're like, who's going downstairs? Is it you or is it me? Because you got all those medals over there. Go get them, darling.
Sorry, but someone who talks like that, let's face it, fight, flight, or freeze, this guy will be running anyway. He's not going to confront that. I mean...
You know what's interesting, though? Like, I'm moving in certain circles now as I've done well in business. So I speak to a lot of men who have achieved financial success. And one of the fears that they often talk about is, like, divorce, basically. Yeah. And losing out on financial means, basically, based on divorce. And what you said kind of tickled me, because what you're saying about how, like, as women do better, as we chain women from all this BS patriarchy, it will benefit men too. Because actually what you see now, when I see like someone like Adele have to pay like half of her money to her husband, they didn't have children together, he didn't write them songs, he wasn't on the stage, he was shooting with her in the gym. Like, I saw a lot of women that were like, hold on, wait, pause, 200 mil for this guy. So I was like, maybe the laws will change ourselves. I was talking to my rich dude friends. I was like, listen,
if he was cooking the meals,
game's changing.
If he was supporting her, because that's the argument that women made for men, right? Like, I was behind the scenes helping run the show, and that's how it is.
There's an element where it's like, there's obviously a fair amount that somebody deserves to have building in the marriage. Absolutely, 1000%.
Partnership.
It's a partnership, but 200 mil, come on. Let's hey, man. This is where I'm exposing myself, basically.
Sign that prenup. Here's another question, though, because very old episode of the podcast that the OG fans will remember, we did a little review of the app Short Kings.
Yes.
The dating app Short Kings, which was...
What was Short Kings?
It was men 5'5" and under looking for love, I believe.
Yes.
Or 5'6" or something. And there is a market for that, especially there are a lot of women who like do not have an issue with dating a man shorter than them. But what I find really interesting is, like, truth be told, have I ever dated a man shorter than me? I haven't.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'5". I'm actually 5'4.5", but I rounded up.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I say that I'm like tall for a Filipino person, but I'm short for a Nigerian person.
Oh my days.
And I'm half and half, so that's how it goes, or whatever, mixed. But what I think is really interesting is, like, when I read that tweet where the guy's like, I can't date someone who's stronger than me, I immediately called him out, like, oh my God, guys, like, get over yourself. But then at the same time, I was like, but let me really be honest. Have I ever dated a man who's shorter than me? And I haven't. So maybe I'm a hypocrite. I'm just saying.
Would you have dated somebody that was like 5'7" though?
Yeah.
Your voice broke there. The high pitch inflection of the voice. Our survey says lie.
I've been socially conditioned. Yeah. I've been socially conditioned to find taller men attractive, like many of us have. But I don't think I'd mind. No, I mean, I haven't, but why not?
Okay, let's segue back into entrepreneurship land. So, and to save Abadesi from the awkward conversation there, exposing her bias towards our short brethren. Shout out to my short king. Stay strong, fellas out there, all right?
There are a lot of attractive short men out there.
Trust me.
Or should I say height challenged?
Vertically challenged. So I saw a tweet from Peter Levels, who's a famous indie hacker, indie founder, one of the most prominent entrepreneurs who's basically built without, VC funding.
You've probably heard of Nomad List.
Remote OK. He tweeted this. I discovered this recently. With 99% of your SaaS subscriptions, you can simply email them and say you want a special discount, and you often get it if you just ask nicely. Anywhere from 20 to 80% discount on your SaaS bills, which can really increase your profit margins, ! And I've just got to say, actually, speaking as me, and no longer reading the tweet, I have done something similar recently. And actually, it wasn't inspired by that tweet. It was inspired by Nikita Biz. another kind of Twitter tech influencer, and he was founder of Gas and TBH. Yeah. He basically said, listen, I'm on the phone every morning on my way to work, you know, with like account managers just harassing them.
How the
like,
rich stay rich.
He's like, yo,
that guy's got money.
Yeah, but listen, he was like, I am basically trying to get my bills down to zero, like, you know what I mean? And then he said that he'd put the phone, like, let's say your service AWS, and then you've got Google Cloud on the other line. Have them in the email thread, just negotiating against themselves.
No, that's hilarious. That's power moves. That's Logan Roy shit.
So what I did is I went on ChatGPT and I said, give me an email template I can send to my providers. Tell them, you know, I really appreciate the product. Product's great, but right now it's a challenge time economically. Can I get a discount? Otherwise, we're going to have to leave.
Yeah.
I sent it to Slack. I sent it to Notion. I sent it to Heroku. I sent it to Cloudinary, which hosts our image. I would say at least
all the companies that will never sponsor us again.
Basically, yeah. I sent it to like three of the four gave me considerable discounts.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? Three of the four were like, please don't leave. The one who was the worst was actually Notion. Notion was like, no.
Yeah.
Notion was like, it's not.
Notion's cheap.
No, it's not. Once you've got to a certain, if you've got like, for each team member, it's like $7-8.
Notion hack. Go through all the users and like
remove
members of pages and make sure you've removed people.
Yeah.
I did that last year where I was just like, oh damn, this person's not on my Notion. I'm getting charged for that. Nah.
Exactly. Notion was like, no. Slack gave me credits to do that. It wasn't great, but it was like, listen. So for example, I think my Slack might cost me like $1,000 a year, and they gave me like $200 credits, which is not bad. That's like a 20, you know what I mean? Yeah. But some of the other ones, Heroku, Cloudinary, I think I got like, you know, 80% discounts.
Yeah, that's really good.
And like when I looked at it, I was like, okay, actually, so at the end of the year, my bills outside of salaries might have been, so hold on, actually. I think it was like my salary, all my bills were like 30 grand a year. I got it down to like 18.
Damn.
That's not bad.
Significant.
That's straight to the profit margin. And all it did was a few emails and just be like, hey, so listen, if you're an entrepreneur, be scrappy.
Yeah.
Be a hustler. Especially if you are from immigrant stock or any sort of thing, however your parents are at the market, that's how you got to be now.
At the market.
Because you know what? Like
last price. What is your last price?
Yeah, because you know what? We start getting, you come into the business world and you almost feel, you know, like an imposter. So you just think, whatever the price is, this is the price. Yeah. So, no, fuck that. Give me the better price, bro.
It's so interesting that you say that, actually, because I have this ritual in my company where every year we review our subscriptions. So we just go through every SaaS product, every subscription, every recurring fee, and literally line by line go, are we using it? Do we need it or not? And after I heard your story, because I know before you shared it with our audience, you told me, I did the same thing where I was just like, okay. And what was so interesting about it was that I realized that like we weren't even using all of our Heroku like features.
There you go.
So we were actually overpaying our web hosting for what we need. And I do think it is like a really worthwhile exercise. I sit on the board of like a couple of charities, and I had this conversation with them where they were just like, you know, like, how can we save money? And I was just like, yo, like, this is the ultimate hack. And to be honest, you don't need to wait for a downturn. Like that Nikita guy, you just do this. Every CEO or whatever, make your ops person do it, make anyone do it. I think this is like a very worthwhile ritual.
It's so funny because probably companies are doing that to our service as well. That's the funny thing.
Oh, snap. Don't do it to us, though. Wait. Hang on a minute.
That's the circle of life. And that's why every company, that's why a lot of companies are either doing layoffs or doing reorgs.
It's different for me.
That's the circle of capitalism, though. Everyone's looking for savings.
Invest in the black economy. Come on now.
Come on. You know what, actually? So I think, what's the company? Is it Honey? What's it called? It's basically like a natural, I'm going to get it completely wrong. The founder's called Beatrice Dixon, and she basically sells like, I think it's like feminine hygiene products, but basically they're like natural, organic. And her company was called Honeypot, and it basically scaled up now. And I think she sold a majority stake for around $400 million.
Oh, nice.
Great achievement, unbelievable outcome. But what always comes up in this time when founders sell, especially black founders sell,
quality of the product.
Is the quality of the product going to go down too? And B, why do we have to sell? Why can't we keep black ownership? What's your thoughts on the never-ending conversation about black ownership and, you know, our founders selling when they shouldn't sell? Should we maintain and keep it in-house? What's your thoughts on this for our new listeners who haven't heard us discuss this before?
I think it's not even that. I think my thoughts on it are also evolving, if I'm honest. Like, I know in the past we've been like really obsessed with this idea of just like maintaining black ownership and creating generational wealth. If we think of the US, for example, like generational wealth is not really a thing when it comes to black communities, which is absolutely tragic when you think of like the economic history of the country and who's really like built it, right? Slaves and stuff. And I get upset, obviously, when I hear that like another Black company, built by us, for us, driven by that need, gets acquired by another huge conglomerate where we're not really represented on the board, we're not really represented in the shareholders, and it feels like a lost opportunity to like keep that money in the Black economy. But now, over the long arc of time, I kind of feel that like actually it's not necessarily like lost power though, because if these founders get an exit, first of all, they're going to become rich, which is really great. It's really great to have like more rich Black people. And what happens when we have more rich Black people? These rich Black people can influence society in other ways. Like they could now go and like sit on the boards of museums and art galleries and get more Black artists on the walls, and that's going to shape the visit of like a school kid that goes there and suddenly goes, wow, I could be an artist, that could be me one day. They can go and become executive producers of TV shows and movies and commission more Black stories to get made so that we can be in the box office, and so we can hire Black producers and directors and actors. They could go and start publishing companies and commission books. So my view on this has been Black people getting rich will always be a good thing. Obviously it would be nice if Black people don't have to get rich by making white men richer. That would be an ideal situation. But let's face it, how many exit opportunities are there for a Black business to another Black business?
It's very rare. But then I guess the argument is, if some people don't sell their company, they can grow and scale to eventually become the acquirer. But at the same time, yeah, especially for companies like consumer packaged goods, it's not as if it's the company spitting out profits and giving you mad dividends. You're probably constantly reinvesting in stock, trying to get distribution in supermarkets and whatever. So the exit is the only time you get really to ever really like make a windfall. So you can't be mad at people for selling. I think it's a silly argument really, because it's like end of the day, like you said, all the positive things you mentioned, but also now they can write angel investing checks to the next generation of founders. How many times are we complaining about Black founders can't get investors because no one believes in the idea, or they don't know nobody with any wealth. But the more Black wealthy people there are, the better the odds are finding somebody to cut you a check who believes in your idea.
I also just want to talk about the reality of like being at the helm of a fast growing business, right? Life happens. One of my favorite brands of the last few years has been Afrocentrics.
I was going to bring that up actually.
Okay, yes. So if you don't know, Afrocentrics was started by two friends, Rachel and Jocelyn. Literally, I think they were at uni, desperate for hair products, for like Afro hair. Literally like made the first batch in their bathroom, that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And over the years, through angel investments, incredible marketing campaigns, and frankly, an amazing product, loved by a community, we're able to get featured like on the shelves of Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And then, Rachel had twins. This is child 3 and 4 for her. And in the early days of their life, their health was compromised. And as a mother, she had to be there for her kids. These kids were like getting operations, and it meant that she had to take time out of the business. And she's been very open about this in an exclusive story for Black Ballad. So if you haven't
we'll put the
read
link in the
it,
show notes.
like please check it out. Definitely recommend subscribing to Black Ballad. I've been a subscriber for years. And in the story, she basically talks about the fact that because she had to put life first, her investors just made moves without her. And the company started going in a direction that she no longer felt comfortable with and no longer could stand by. And I think, I don't want to spoil the story. You guys go read the story. But what we don't know when we talk about all of these brands that exit is like the sacrifices that have been made by the founders to get to that point. And I think it's all good and well in theory to be like, hold up for the long run. But we were on the show talking about the founder of NVIDIA, right? Saying who held out for the long run and is now under attack from Microsoft, Apple, all these big tech companies. He himself said if he could go back in time, he'd be like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it, because starting a company, growing a company, keeping a company alive costs you friends, costs you relationship, costs you life.
The thing about Afrocentrics was interesting is that essentially because she wasn't able to fully focus on the business, like you said, the other owners, the other investors basically forced the sale of the company. I know you didn't want to spoil it, but I think it's relevant to what I'm going to say.
Go for it.
They forced the sale of the company in a way that was non-optimal. The product, I think, probably is declining in quality. And Rachel came out and said, listen, I don't agree with the direction the company is going in. I'm not involved, etc., etc. Now, I'm going to assume that the exit wasn't a giant windfall for her. I'm going to assume that it was just like the company, because I think the company was slowly going out of business. So they just forced the sale to some sort of company to get some money in. But it wasn't as if she's walking away with a bunch of money, basically, right? Now, let's say 3 years prior, somebody came in with a massive offer. We would be like, oh, how can you do that? How can you do that? Or something.
Exactly.
But it's like, sometimes you got to take the offer when you're up, because you don't know what is going to come down the line 3 years down the line.
Exactly.
Like, we might sit there, oh, black ownership. But listen, that's what can happen. You might you might go all the way to your company's end and it might not work out, and you turn down an exit. You just don't know. You've got to prioritize you and your family. You absolutely have to.
There's no guarantees.
There's
a
no
bird
guarantees.
in the hand is worth 2 in the bush.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, man, it's a real roller coaster. You're so right. You're so right. Like, we don't know that. You just don't know what the future holds.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it at that. That's been this week's Techish. Thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. At Techish Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Subscribe, share the episode, leave a review, and we'll catch you next week.